Hello, greetings, everyone. It's Naomi Wolf, and I'm of Outspoken and Daily Clout. And today I'm going to be reading an essay that I wrote over the weekend called MAHA in Middle School. And let me know your thoughts. And the subtitle is An Important Movement Must Grow Up and Fast. This is one of those essays I dread writing. It's about a movement I cherish and about people whom generally I greatly admire. Headline: MAHA leadership is risking a derailment. It risks losing President Trump and the Republicans the midterms. The cause of this danger is an oddly adolescent, somewhat culty, and far too personalized approach to the challenges and rigors of national politics. I write this essay out of love and support for the MAGA MAHA alliance in the hope that MAHA can course correct quickly. MAGA, in my view, is doing more than fine. I need to paint the picture in snapshots. As you know from my last post, I was the co-author and signatory, along with my colleague, commentator Shannon Joy of The Shannon Joy Show, analyst Sasha Latipova of Due Diligence and Art, and physician Dr. Mary Telly Bowden of AmericansForHealthFreedom.org, of an open letter criticizing HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s misleading announcements about having revised the CDC recommendations for the mRNA injection. Though the announcement purported to be a step in the right direction and was being welcomed rapturously by MAHA-aligned influencers as a removal of the mRNA shot from the CDC recommendations, we pointed out that it was still targeted against sick kids and against all pregnant women. Our letter also took issue with the fact that HHS has not pulled the mRNA platform from the market and is failing to deliver on various key MAHA policy goals, which we itemized. The response to this letter has been extremely supportive, with signatures from many grassroots citizens and health freedom activists. It generated a good deal of press, including stories in yahoo.com, coverage in podcasts such as Dr. Drew, and so on. Some seemingly positive MAHA deliverables were set in motion the following week. Secretary Kennedy fired the corrupt AKIP, Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, committee, for instance, and appointed 8 replacements. These included the science freedom hero, Great Barrington Declaration signatory, Dr. Martin Kulldorff, the well-known critic of lockdown excesses, Dr. Retzef Levy of MIT, was also appointed, a slightly baffling choice upon deeper scrutiny, as his field is food security, not vaccines. He also spent 12 years in the Israel Defense Forces intelligence wing, but no matter. Self-described inventor of the mRNA platform, Dr. Robert Malone, was a pick as well. So this dramatic gesture of Secretary Kennedy's turns out not to be black and white. Shannon Joy rightly pointed out, for instance, that 8 replacements are just shy of a majority. There will surely be more MAHA, quote, victories to come, and more questions to be raised about those victories step by step by step. In other words, HHS had a positive to messy week following high-profile pressure from an outside group, along with other internal and external pressures of all kinds, no doubt. My point is this: this is how politics works. Principals, meaning people situated as Secretary Kennedy or President Trump are, try to weave every day through the thicket of competing agendas that surrounds them and to draw down from the opposition all around them the least amount of damage. Everyone is trying to avoid rousing unnecessarily the ire of the biggest investors in both parties' campaigns, in this case, Big Pharma. There are belligerent watchdogs over Secretary Kennedy on the inside. Reportedly, Senator Bill Cassidy has placed a rigid gatekeeper in the mix. Advisor Kelly Means is also tasked with keeping too much real MAHA momentum from taking place, it appears, and the whole operation is overseen by another stern gatekeeper, President Trump's chief of staff, former lobbyist Susie Wiles. In all of this complexity, the base yells and screams about its own issues. Some accommodation is made for a compromise that is no one's ideal, and things move haltingly forward. Everyone who has ever done politics at a national level understands this chaotic tug-of-war dynamic and knows that this is the reality of power all day, every day. Grown-up, experienced national politicians and their chiefs of staff know that it is very useful for them when their base yells and screams about an issue, especially publicly, because it gives them cover to deliver outcomes that their voters want, but that lobbyists and special interests do not want the voters to receive. MAHA leadership and insiders really have to learn about and understand this dynamic. I remember Vice President Al Gore, who is quite a decent person. I got a lot of comments about that, surely not, but just that was my experience of him. I'm not talking about the whole agenda over, 20 plus years. As it turned out, I'm not a scientist. I can't assess the climate change issue, but when I worked with him, I'm just being honest, he struck me as quite a sincere public servant who was trying to do the right thing. I remember Vice President Al Gore, who was quite a decent person, explaining this dynamic to me. He said that citizens don't usually have a seat at the table, and that this can be very frustrating for decent principals, since special interests do always have a seat at the table. The best message he could give to citizens who wanted a specific outcome from him was for them not simply to complain about what he was not delivering, but rather, as he put it, to, quote, make me. That is to say, citizens needed to organize and create formal pressure groups and publicly press on the principal and on his or her team. The example the vice president gave was AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons. Before this pressure group existed, the elderly had little power or voice. But after it was organized, no president or congressperson on the right or the left wanted to infuriate American elders' numerically powerful advocacy group. I took that lesson to heart. But it appears that many MAHA insiders, and certainly many among the satellites of, sorry, I have to say it, men who are now informally surrounding Secretary Kennedy, really don't seem to understand this or to get in general how to play grown-up politics. MAHA insiders and the satellite spokespeople and Bobby helpers seem to be resorting to middle school mean girl tactics rather than waging serious adult national politics on behalf of Secretary Kennedy. And there I actually link the image from the movie Mean Girls. These men are resorting, for example, to adolescent personal attacks at the least provocation. When I raised questions on social media about Calimean's company TrueMed's biometrics harvesting business model, the HHS advisor called me unhinged, quote unquote. He declined to debate me or publicly to discuss the issue. I later wrote an essay revealing that his sister, Surgeon General nominee and Levels co-founder Casey Means, had a company with nearly flat growth and with problems with the visitor base, but with a valuation of $313 million. A grown-up HHS press office would have made sure that Secretary Kennedy appeared with Dr. Means in multiple venues and would have booked her a round of TV, print, radio, and podcast interviews in which such questions and those from others could have been addressed. Or if it turned out that Dr. Means was unready for such appearances and that the problems that I and others raised were insurmountable, grown-up politicos would cut bait, release a lovely statement about Dr. Means having other projects to pursue, and move on to another nominee. But that is not what happened. Dr. Means has been kept in some off-grid location somewhere. I am joking. I mean that she has vanished from sight. Instead of our witnessing a grown-up media strategy, I received a call from a close advisor to RFK Jr. and colleague, now of Callie Means's. The caller told me to be nicer about the Means siblings if I wished to, quote, support RFK Jr. and not to be, quote, divisive to the MAHA movement in criticizing the Means siblings. That wasn't the end of my punishment from the kids at the coolest lunchroom table. I later discovered that it was Callie Means who was the gatekeeper for the seating at Senator Ron Johnson's hearing based on my Pfizer paper's team's uncredited work, a hearing that we were told was too full for us to attend. Darn it all, Stacy didn't invite me to her prom after party. A week or two later, Shannon Joy, Sasha Latipova, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, and I ran our open letter critical of the deployment of the mRNA injection recommendations targeting sick kids and pregnant women. After that, MAHA Middle School got really weird and punitive. Over by the lockers, rumors were rampant that there would be a fight by the bleachers during lunch period. Dr. Robert Malone called our group of signatories publicly a, quote, hate group. He wrote on social media that the critics of MAHA, clearly referencing our letter and Nicole Shanahan's recent separate critiques, had nefarious motivations. Quote, there is a clique of historically liberal women influencers, mostly from California or the Northeast, end quote, who are, quote, actively seeking to divide the MAHA movement. Dr. Malone's whole comment on Nicole Shanahan's criticisms of HHS and MAHA for not delivering on campaign agendas is worth reproducing. Quote, it is no question in my mind that the two movements, MAHA and MAGA, although they overlap, come from very different ideological roots, political roots. And you can see that in, well, Nicole Shanahan kind of embodies that. Nicole Shanahan is basically a Bay Area Silicon Valley type attorney who met one of the founders of Google at Burning Man. That's just the way it is. And they became married, had a child, and then separated because the child had, let's say, I don't want to put words in her mouth, let's say developmental disabilities that plausibly could have been associated with the pediatric vaccine schedule that led to a very contentious divorce, major settlement for Ms. Shanahan. And she now lives a life of luxury with a new significant other, this challenged child, and has decided to become not just politically active, but potential candidate for governor of California, and has apparently made a significant commitment to, let's say, becoming an influencer and to some extent a media celebrity. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout. Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The wellness company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. MAHA is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you. Her words that she used recently on X are very consistent with someone who's seeking attention as a media celebrity. Now, that position that she's taken has a pretty dark component to it, in that what she's functionally saying, when a donor to a political campaign seeks to gain promises from a political candidate in exchange for their contribution, this is commonly referred to as influence peddling, or in more severe cases, as a form of political corruption or bribery. When a powerful person withholds support from a candidate to extract specific promises, this is also influence peddling. If powerful people are doing this to kill or support MAHA or MAGA goals or objectives, it is still influence peddling. So, not politically astute kind of comes across as angry unnecessarily. End quote. Dr. Malone here depicted Ms. Shanahan, without whose advocacy and funding Secretary Kennedy and President Trump would not now be in power. And no disrespect to either of them, they just alone didn't have the numbers that they have together, as being motivated by a desire for attention, hungry for celebrity, and, quote, angry, end quote, all of these being sexist stereotypes traditionally used to undermine strong women leaders. He also tried subtly to smear Shanahan, noting that she met her husband to be, quote, at Burning Man. You know, that's just the way it is, end quote. Men may miss the dog whistle here, but every woman who reads this understands what, quote, you know, that's just the way it is, end quote, and, quote, Burning Man, end quote, mean when used together within the lexicon of slut shaming. Finally, he threateningly invoked a sometimes illegal act when describing the expectations that every major donor has that his or her agenda will get serious consideration from the candidate whom he or she supported. Quote, influence peddling, unquote, can be illegal and is an offense close to bribery or coercion. The threat that Dr. Malone makes here, that Ms. Shanahan's expectations as a donor that her agenda be considered could be recast by the Trump team as an illegal activity, is a serious threat. Dr. Malone also told an audience at Freedom Fest that he and I, Naomi, as he called me, though I always refer to him as Dr. Malone, got into a, quote, Twitter twat. I'm serious, end quote, a conflict that was spun up by, quote, chaos agents, end quote. In other words, he implied to this audience, one made up of my own community, that I was too stupid to figure out my own opposition to some of his views, and that my mind was being manipulated by some mysterious outside force. As far as what a, quote, Twitter twat, end quote, is, I have no idea, but I want the t-shirt. These attacks and adolescent social punishments were not all. Some of us received a range of calls from male MAHA insiders. Many of them used non-politically serious approaches to our public opposition to various MAHA outcomes. There were amateurish carrots brandished, as well as sticks. One insider told me that if I did not, quote, attack the leadership, if I just said that I was happy, quote, as an activist and celebrated, quote, the greater good, I would benefit from greater book sales. Another suggested that I might be up for a job at HHS. Other approaches to the signatories of our letter weirdly emotionalized what we were expected to do and not do as political activists. I received a call and a DM from two separate MAHA satellite Bobby helpers, both urging me in the exact same language to direct gentle encouragement to Bobby in regards to what I wanted to see from Secretary Kennedy and not engage in, quote, snarky public criticism. I replied that I am not Secretary Kennedy's therapist and that it is my job as a citizen to raise public opposition when leadership strays from what I see as the movement's agenda. I got DMs from RFK Jr.'s high-level supporters asking me why this distrust of Bobby. Many said that I should be glad that he is there at all, as, quote, the alternative would be so much worse, end quote. Some of my co-signatories sustained phone calls from MAHA insiders that seemed on the surface to be supportive, but that also contained the theme that we should not be, quote, divisive by engaging in public criticism. Several of the men who called me, I'm a woman who directly helped two presidential candidates' campaigns, President Bill Clinton's and Vice President Al Gore's, win the popular US vote, who helped to develop messages and talking points, read through speeches, consulted on events, reviewed polling, and was part of strategy discussions. They prefaced their messages to me about why I should be nicer and quieter by stating that I did not understand how politics was played. I don't even care about this personally demeaning treatment, as I am sure my colleagues do, and I am sure my colleagues do not care. We are too focused on trying to prevent any more babies and children from being killed, to prevent any more pregnant women from needlessly losing their babies. What happened to us personally does not matter. All of this that I described, though, above matters because it reveals a serious problem in the MAHA leadership at HHS and in the satellites around Secretary Kennedy who are outside of HHS. One problem it reveals is that some key MAHA insiders and informal spokespeople dramatically do not know how to listen to and respect women, to respect moms. That is a very serious problem, since MAHA is overwhelmingly a movement of women, of moms. This demographic makeup is why MAHA is such an historic and important movement, and why the MAGA-MAHA alliance, if executed properly, could secure power in America for the next 200 years. No one has ever been able to count on that suburban white mom's vote before. An alliance that can count on it is unbeatable. A second problem these approaches reveal is that MAHA insiders don't know how to, quote, play politics in an adult way with their own constituents as a whole, with their critics and with opposition groups. None of this is how you, thank you, none of this is how you do grown-up politics. If I were advising Secretary Kennedy, which I am not, and I saw that Nicole Shanahan was publicly posting criticism of Secretary Kennedy and that 4 MAHA voices with major platforms had signed a critical open letter, I would say something like this. Secretary Kennedy, Chief of Staff Heather Flick Melanson, we need to prevent this emerging situation from becoming serious. Nicole Shanahan is in a position to fund a third-party challenge to us and to President Trump. The signatories of that letter have millions of followers. We need to bring those people to the table. We risk losing them and their allies, that critical independent female swing vote. We need to send reporters, including these critics, bullet points every week about what we have accomplished in terms of the MAHA agenda. We need to have weekly calls in which a surrogate or HH press secretary presents to reporters and to these critics Secretary Kennedy's deliverables. We need to send a surrogate to do a video debate with these critics, or send Secretary Kennedy to hold a town hall to answer every single question that has arisen in this and in other criticism related to failing to deliver on MAHA promises. We need to show progress on more MAHA deliverables. We need to shore up the MAHA moms in time for the midterms and for 2028. Here is what I would not advise. Quote, send out some men to tell these ladies that they don't understand politics. Oh, and while they're out there, these guys should slut shame the world-renowned activist billionaire mom with the disabled child. They should then tell the famous feminist to be, quote, gently encouraging to, quote, Bobby, and to be nicer in general. And they should instruct the Texan Dr. Heroin, who nearly lost her license, and the beloved fearless radio host with hundreds of thousands of followers, that they are part of a, quote, hate group. The guys should imply that the respected critic who grew up under Soviet communism and who spent 25 years in the field of clinical trials, clinical technologies, and regulatory approvals is part of a group of, quote, liberal West Coast, end quote, women with corrupt motivations. Tell those ladies to, quote, trust Bobby and to, quote, be grateful for him and to stop being so, quote, angry, end quote. Yeah, I wouldn't advise that. The thing is, again, it doesn't matter what happens to us personally. We are not raising these issues for personal glory. A final reason that it is disastrous to approach MAHA politics in such a middle school mean girls way as the above is that everyone can see it. Once people are in power or near it, they tend to forget how smart voters are. That the millions of women who follow what Secretary Kennedy, the men I identified above and the ones I did not identify, Nicole Shanahan, and the signatories of our letter are all doing, can see how our criticisms are being received by these spokespeople and satellite Bobby helpers. And voters, again, are not stupid. What we signatories saw, millions of others can see. Many voters can see for themselves that MAHA is not delivering on its campaign promises. Then there's the debacle of the missing or impossible to locate press apparatus. There is no specific press officer listed as the HHS press contact. It is just ashmedia@hhs.gov. Press is handled by the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. You can see the org chart, but not contact the humans by name or email. There are no talking points, videos, or white papers sent weekly by a human press officer to reporters in an email list that should have been compiled during the campaign. You have to be credentialed as a reporter, even to get your request answered via this anonymous website. You can sign up as a reporter for talking points or live streams on this clunky, off-putting bureaucratic website, but it appears that you can't ask to speak with a human press officer, let alone get a quote from the secretary or from his chief of staff. Signing up on a website to watch a live stream with no way proactively to contact a human press officer or press office is not how any real top-level press outreach works. When you search for HHS press secretary, you get nothing but a story by Mother Jones claiming that Emily Hilliard is HHS press secretary. Then you click around and see that Ms. Hilliard announced on LinkedIn that she is joining HHS as deputy press secretary. Is Ms. Hilliard press secretary? Where is a prominent landing page with contact information for her? If so, how do I reach her? It is a profound mystery. The MAHA report, which does not exist on its own URL, so can't be easily shared, and which an insider told me was put together in coordination with Kelly Means, contained multiple errors, citations of studies that do not exist. The legacy media, of course, had a field day with this. The HHS press officer maybe had disastrously to tell the media covering the errors that these were caused by formatting. Quote, in a statement provided to Mother Jones, HHS press secretary Emily Hilliard repeated prior claims characterizing the fake citations as, quote, minor and, quote, formatting errors. A real press office has a last stage phalanx of fact checkers and researchers who make sure with multiple reviews that this kind of catastrophe can never, ever, ever happen. Why does Secretary Kennedy and HHS's MAHA comms seem not to have that standard basic protection? A MAHA insider proudly showed me at a recent dinner the new page listing the Chief of Staff, Heather Flick Melanson. It was created by the nameless Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, and it had no email and no phone number, and as a result looked completely anomalous and amateurish. I bit my tongue and passed a tray of meringues, and there it is. It is a thicket of unknowables. This set of arcane barriers, bureaucratic mysteries at HHS, and missing comms essentials rules out reporters such as myself and thousands of others who want to tell a fair story. I should have been able to find and contact the HHS press secretary easily, or some flunky in her office tasked with dealing with people like me, and say, I am writing a critical piece about Callie and Casey Means. Can I have a comment? That would provide balance to any news coverage of Secretary Kennedy and HHS. But I can't even do that. So neither can thousands of other independent or affiliated reporters who may want to write a story informed by Secretary Kennedy's own agenda and showcasing his point of view. This leaves Secretary Kennedy at the mercy of the press. By the way, 5 times in different contexts, close MAHA insiders have asked me to describe what a functioning press apparatus for an agency such as HHS should look like. And 5 times I have done so. One of them suggested I text that information to Bobby. I explained that as a reporter, that would be a conflict of interest, but that they were free to pass the information on. My description seemed to have vanished into a black hole. Meanwhile, the men who tell me that I do not understand politics commit appalling comms hygiene blunders, such as always saying sensitive and newsworthy things to reporters without the preface of off the record or on background. One's head explodes. I am writing all of this because I am a supporter of MAGA and MAHA, but above all, citizens are supposed, said our founders, to hold their appointeds and electeds' feet to the fire. I like Secretary Kennedy, whom I know slightly very much. He is very inspiring. I respect him for the most part deeply. I want Secretary Kennedy and President Trump to win. I want MAHA deliverables reasonably executed. Susie Wiles should realize that if MAHA deliverables are ignored, President Trump risks the midterms and his allies in 2028. I want Secretary Kennedy to respond and to have a team who responds effectively to pressure such as ours. I want his helpers and acolytes to realize that we must do politics at the highest level, that we are not middle schoolers bent on creating social hierarchies, insiders and outsiders, emotional dramas. Quote, Bobby needs a functioning press office, not a group of guys who call angry moms to tell them to be more, quote, gently encouraging to him. President Trump won't, quote, sour on Bobby, one of the fears shared with me by one of these acolytes, if the base is active and yelling. Why? Because there is no one to replace Bobby in mollifying that active base. But if the base goes silent, as these acolytes are advising the ladies to do, Bobby becomes paradoxically more expendable. The guys who phone us really need to understand that math. I want MAGA and MAHA to win. They can save this nation. I want them to be happily married forever. As with any good marriage, it is not when you go silent that things work out. It is when you speak up. And as with any good mother, it is not when you go quiet and act nice that you effectively defend your cubs. It is when you face off against those who threaten them, bare your teeth and roar. And that is the image I ended on. Angry mama bear. No one's going to mess with her. That's it. That's my essay. Teresa Davis Lund says communication is key. Thank you, Naomi. Tharur Soul of India says, I admire you. Thank you. That's very kind. Other comments are held back a little. I'm running low on charge, so I should probably close up this live stream. But I know you can imagine my feelings and my point of view. We're in a very difficult and dire time. We have to win. We have to get these mRNA injections off the market. We have to prosecute the people who murdered so many Americans and sterilized so many women and men. The next generation is not going to be able to reproduce well. Birth rates have collapsed in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, in Australia. The truth has surfaced, and we can all see, all of us who fought hard to get RFK Jr. into positions of power. Dr. Marty Makary of the FDA, my dear friend, Jay Bhattacharya, whom I respect so much at the NIH, but overall, Bobby Kennedy and above him, Susie Wiles and President Trump, they have to deliver for us because this movement can walk away. We are able to run our own candidates. We're able to challenge the Republicans' challengers. I don't want to. I want this alliance to work out. As I said in my essay, it's historic, but you don't get the mom swing vote, that critical swing vote, if you ignore the moms. You're not going to do it. And may I tell you, since we wrote this essay, many, many moms have written to us. It's not a gender issue. Many dads care just as much. And people, whatever they're, whether they have kids or not, want those deliverables that Bobby Kennedy campaigned on and Nicole Shanahan campaigned on. She's trying to deliver on, right? Being called names for her efforts. But the people we're hearing from are really angry, and our open letter has had lots and lots of signatories. They're angry. Any mom, I'll just speak as a mom. When you're told to calm down when your children are at risk, it literally makes you like it's a primate thing or it's a mammal thing, or really that bear medicine. I feel it makes you want to stand up on your hind legs and bare your claws in your teeth and roar and go after the person who is telling you to calm down while danger is coming at your children. We will not stand for it. And I hope Susie Wiles is listening. She has a tough job, I'm sure, but I am telling you, it is not business as usual. You will not be able to win the midterms. You will not be able to prevail in 2028 if you keep ignoring the moms who got RFK Jr. into power. And you will not do it karmically if you don't deliver on the crimes that we all witness that are coming to light, that can't be hidden anymore. We all see it. It is not that exciting that artificial colors have been removed from Heinz ketchup if the birth rate is still collapsing, if kids are still in danger, and the eugenics of how this injection is being deployed. RFK Jr. has pointed out that he's not recommending it for healthy kids. That means he's targeting sick kids. What? Like what? An injection that hurts their hearts is going to go to kids whose hearts are damaged. An injection that compromises their immune system is going to go to kids whose immune systems are compromised. It is not okay. It is not okay. So I've said what I have to say. I still have a little bit of charge. I don't really want to leave until I know that you all have heard me. Hopefully, word will reach Susie Wiles. I hope that the chief of staff at HHS, hears us, reads our open letter. If not, send her this open letter, right? Send her this video, send her the link on my Substack and on Daily Clout. The word has to reach these people that they need to reassure the moms with deliverables, not with language, not with Heinz ketchup, and the dads and everyone who got MAGA and MAHA together and empower, that they are, that they are giving us a reasonable timeline for actual deliverables. And we listed 5 campaign deliverables in our essay, but definitely number 1, get these injections off the market. We don't need them. There's nothing more that Secretary Kennedy needs to remove them. He doesn't need Congress. He doesn't need more of a mandate. His being there is the mandate. He doesn't need this state of emergency to end. He can take them off the market tonight. So that is what I have to say. I'm so glad that I didn't get cut off in midstream. If you want to support essays like this, of course, I need your help. It takes a whole team to produce and distribute them. Go over to Outspoken to subscribe on Substack, or go to dailyclout.io to subscribe. If you want to help us, you can order the Pfizer Papers, an unbelievable book, really historic, a bestseller. And if you just want to, help and you don't have any money, go ahead and subscribe to Outspoken or to Daily Clout in the free tier and share it, post it, repost it. But mostly, speak up, call the White House, call HHS if you can find the phone number. Right? I gave you the emails. They'll get emails from you. They're in my essay. Don't stop putting pressure on the people that you elected and that they appointed to give you what you deserve. No one should condescend to you. No one should belittle you. No one should silence you. And no one should ever mess with moms. Seriously. It's a very, very stupid, dangerous, I don't mean physically dangerous, but politically dangerous thing to do at times like this. The moms can go elsewhere. I hope I've made my point. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for listening. Take care.